I think private practice routine work is very important and not to be undervalued. Having said that, it is important to look for other opportunities to maintain standards and motivation for your own worth. But doing the routine work in private practice is essential for our communities, and that's what people are coming to see us for. It's looking at other opportunities to extend the services we provide, to make your life interesting and your professional career worthy, so you retain the profession and keep within the profession. I think the future for podiatry is very bright. The only restriction for podiatry is the use of the title podiatrist. So if you're qualified as a podiatrist, you've got every opportunity to expand your scope of practice to where you want to drive it. I think the challenge is to get a qualification or to get a process in place that says that you can do what you do. So an external provider who's actually assessing your quality of work to say the service you're providing is worthy of the public attention. I think there's a great role for podiatry in that space. Podiatrists need to take a different focus perhaps and get the patient as the centre of care and not being reliant on our care. We need to work to encourage the patient to be responsible for their own health outcomes and educating them so they know the questions to ask us in their care. And from the multidisciplinary point of view, we're going to have to work much closer with our GPs and the other persons who provide care for that patient. And they might not be the people we're expecting, because it's about the patient choosing the clinicians who they prefer to deliver their care, rather than what the doctor thinks or what we think might be the best person for them. I think it's really important that all podiatrists and new podiatrists in the practice get experience in clinical care, but that's the fundamental role of podiatry. So they need to work hard at developing their clinical skills, accepting that they'll get the fundamental skills at university and they'll get the theoretical knowledge at university. But being competent in your profession means you've got to have the knowledge, the skills and the attributes to be able to deliver services to the people who come to seek your attention. So knowledge is only one part of it. It's having the attributes and to be able to communicate really well with your patients, which I think is just as important as the knowledge and skills. And skills only comes from repeat practice and thinking about your practice and refining your practice. So as a new graduate and a new podiatrist, you've got wonderful knowledge, and you need to develop those skills and those attributes to better serve your patients. I think the proudest achievement has been working with SARA, Services for Australian Rural and Remote Allied Health. Through that organisation, I got to meet people working in rural and remote allied health all across Australia and took on a number of roles for the organisation in a voluntary capacity. It was through that organisation that I applied for a Commonwealth grant and was successful in obtaining funding for the Indigenous Diabetic Foot project, and that project led on to me achieving a Churchill Fellowship in 2008. The Churchill Fellowship took me to the United States of America and to Canada to look at Indigenous foot health services in those communities and to reflect on what we'd achieved in Australia and to see if we could make any improvements for Indigenous services in Australia. So I think those experiences, which were fundamentally voluntary experiences, took me to achieve a grant and then a fellowship. So one door opens many other doors, and it's not always the obvious door that you're going to go through to make the future pathway for yourself. The other achievement has been through the registration boards. So I was first a member of the Queensland Registration Board, and then when the national scheme evolved, In 2009, I was nominated as the Chair of the Podiatry Board of Australia. These roles are challenging roles for all podiatrists and for all people on these boards, but I was very fortunate that I was able to work with a team nationally to produce what we have today, which is an outstanding national and a registration and accreditation scheme. So I think one of the career highlights has been working with the veteran community. When I first graduated, we saw World War I veterans, then we had World War II veterans, and in my later career we saw a lot more Vietnam veterans. As well as that, we have the Laverack Barracks in Townsville, and we had contracts with Laverack Barracks for serving members of the Defence Services. So we did a lot of biomechanical work there for those guys. But the important thing I think that I learned from the veteran community was that they'd faced death, dying, atrocities while they were at war, and yet they still demanded podiatry services. I think the career framework is an excellent start. We've got frameworks set up in paediatrics, sports and biomechanics, and now high-risk foot podiatry. So I think they're excellent starting point. Through the career framework, the community will be able to identify practitioners with these specific skills, and it doesn't mean that that practitioner is going to be the one for that person in the community, but at least they know they've got some credentials and some skills that may be what they're looking for. So the career framework is a definite good starting point. That was beautiful.